so badly done that nobody believes that we would have done it. That's right.
I know, I hope that is
just beyond comprehension.
Well, it sounds like a comic book movie.
It really does. It'd make a funny damn movie. It really is like a comic book.
And get in and get those files. Those say and get it. Are we going to go after some of these Democrats or not? Please get me the names of the Jews. Could we please investigate some of the...
He wasn't glamorous, he wasn't social. He's kind of awkward and very smart, but it's hard to get past the tapes and what you hear on the tapes and the rambling and the paranoia and just the insanity.
Some of the pictures are killing. We're against enemy, a conspiracy. They're using any means. We are going to use any means. Is that clear?
I really didn't know Richard Nixon when I went into the White House. I had a public image of him. And as he gets more comfortable with me, I start to see a rather dark side of this man. And I realized very quickly he's a man who harbored tremendous animosity towards his enemies, literally. He doesn't forgive, he doesn't forget, and he wants to get even.
The real Nixon is on those tapes. It is a roadmap of his mind. It is a roadmap of his presidency.
Now, on the investigation, the Democratic break-in thing, we're back in the problem area because the FBI is not under control, and their investigation is now leading into some productive areas.
What finally catches him is when the tapes are released. The smoking gun tape puts the lie to the statement that he had no advance knowledge.
On the tape, you hear Nixon telling Haldeman to direct the CIA to stop an FBI investigation.
Without going into the details, don't lie to them that he can't say there's no involvement. But you say this is sort of a comedy of errors, and that they should call the FBI in, so they don't go any further into this case, period.
Those words clearly led to an obstruction of justice.
And I was always amazed at the president's nonchalance. He didn't seem to care. I wanted to say to him, my God, man, do you know what you just said? Do you know those tapes are rolling?
After the smoking gun tape came out, the president lost all support, Republican as well as Democrat. Republicans went to him and said, you have to resign. We cannot support you anymore.
It was Republicans, finally, who made sure that Nixon had to leave office. Barry Goldwater marching down to the White House.
So we sat there in the Oval Room, and the president acted like he just played golf and just had a hole-in-one. You'd never think this guy's tail was in a crack.
Nixon said, how many votes if I'm impeached in the House? How many votes in the Senate? About 20. And Goldwater said,
very few and not mine.
The 37th President of the United States was facing the ultimate disgrace. For a man who craved power, the question was, would Nixon continue to fight?
Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow. Vice President Ford will be sworn in as president at that hour in this office.
Our first reaction really was, okay, he's not president anymore. He's just a citizen. Now we can indict him. Honestly, that is what we thought.
The morning he resigned, I remember I walked down the street and bought a bottle of scotch.
Earlier today, the East Room of the White House was the scene of an emotional meeting between the president, his cabinet, and the aides who have stayed with him during all of these years of Mr. Nixon's tenure in the White House.
You have this president who is bitterly resentful of what had happened to him in his political career, overlaid with a Shakespearean level of paranoia. And he was willing to engage in extraordinary acts to preserve his power.
He's not looking at the camera. He's kind of staring off and going into the stream of consciousness about his mother, who was a saint.
I guess all of you would say this about your mother. My mother was a saint.
And that's the most honest speech I've ever heard any politician give. And I'm standing there, much, much thinner, younger version of myself, crying.
We think that when we lose an election, we think that when we suffer a defeat, that all is ended.
It's really sad. Really sad. And I don't think any president has been more wrongly persecuted than Nixon, ever. I think he was a saint.
Breaking and entering, wiretapping, destruction of government documents, forgery of State Department documents and letters, secret slush funds, plans to audit tax returns for political retaliation, conspiracy to obstruct justice. All of this by the Law and Order administration of Richard Nixon. Sounds bad when you put it like that, huh?
In the end, some 40 people pled guilty to Watergate-related crimes. John Ehrlichman, Bob Haldeman, John Dean, and 16 others went to jail.
I, Gerald R. Ford, do grant a full, free, and absolute pardon unto Richard Nixon for all offenses against the United States which he...
President Ford's pardon of Richard Nixon stunned the nation. Nixon's legal problems were now over.
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal. By definition. Exactly.
The former president was still not accepting responsibility. 3 years after resigning, Nixon was paid to participate in an historic interview with the British television journalist David Frost. At the very end, the inevitable question came up.
Do you feel that you ever obstructed justice or were part of a conspiracy to obstruct justice?
He wouldn't really admit anything, not even mistakes or whatever. He was really stonewalling completely. And he was beginning to look like the haunted Nixon of the actual Watergate hearings rather than the Californian ex-president. And so finally I said to him, but won't you go further than the word mistakes?
What word would you express?
And that was a real gobsmacking moment.
My goodness,
I threw aside my clipboard and I said, well, I think there are 3 things you've got to say. The first is that in fact that you did go to the very verge of criminality, and secondly that you let down your oath of office, and
thirdly, I put the American people through 2 years of needless agony, and I apologize for that. And I know how difficult it is for anyone, and most of all you, but I think that people need to hear it, and I think unless you say it, you're going to be haunted for the rest of your life.
You're wanting me to say that I participated in an illegal cover-up? No.
The key to Nixon really is his dislocated relationship with truth.
If true, greatest words ever written in journalism. What is the truth? What is the truth? What really happened?